My grandfather smiled at my wife during Christmas dinner and asked, "Has anyone complimented you on Grandma's beautiful ring?" I stared at my wife's quarter-carat solitaire that had taken me 19 months to pay off, while she looked down in complete confusion. "What ring?" I asked, my stomach already twisting into knots. Grandfather's smile faded as he studied my wife's hand. "The 4-carat Edwardian diamond worth $82,000 that Grandma specifically gave your mother to give to you when she went into hospice. She wanted you to have it for this sweet girl who spent every Sunday with her for 5 years." My mother's champagne glass shattered against her dinner plate, sending golden liquid pooling across the tablecloth. "Dad, you're confused. The medication made Grandma say things that weren't real," my mother said quickly, golden liquid pooling across the tablecloth. But Grandfather was already scrolling through his phone with shaking fingers. "I have the video she made me record." The screen showed Grandma in her hospice bed holding my wife's hand and speaking with perfect clarity. "I want my grandson to have my engagement ring for this beautiful girl who visited me every Sunday for 5 years, bringing me caramel macchiatos and teaching me technology and listening to all my stories." The ring threw rainbow prisms across the walls as she held it up. "This was my grandmother's ring from Prague, and I had it appraised at $82,000, and I'm giving it to you to keep safe until he proposes. I know he's been saving, and I want them to use that money for their life together instead." My mother's chair crashed backward into the china cabinet as she stood violently. "That video doesn't mean anything. She gave me different private instructions that nobody else heard." Grandfather set down his phone with terrifying calm. "Then explain these texts where you sent me photos of their proposal saying how beautiful she looked wearing Grandma's ring and how proud she would have been." "I had to pawn it!" my mother screamed, mascara streaming down her face in thick black rivers. "The funeral was $12,000 and the cemetery was $8,000. I had no choice." I pulled out my phone and found the listing immediately. The pawn shop downtown, 2 days after Grandma's funeral, 1 antique Edwardian diamond ring, $78,000 cash. My wife was gripping the table with white knuckles as the betrayal sank in completely. "You stood next to me at the jewelry store," she whispered. "You helped me pick this ring and said Grandma would love the vintage style, and then you watched him sign the loan papers." The memory slammed into me as I remembered how she'd encouraged us to look at more expensive options before I signed a loan agreement for $2,300 at 18% interest. "You told me to get a second job to pay it off faster," I said, my voice cracking with rage. "I loaded trucks from midnight to 8 in the morning until my hands bled through my gloves and my back gave out completely while you had $78,000 of my money sitting in your account." My wife suddenly stood beside me with tears pouring down her face. "Last month you called crying about your car payment and begged for help, and we gave you $1,500 from our honeymoon savings because we couldn't stand the thought of you being homeless." The irony was sickening because we'd eaten nothing but ramen for weeks to help her while she had our inheritance money. "Where did $78,000 go in 1 year?" Grandfather demanded, his face purple with fury. We could all see the designer purse on the counter and the fresh Botox and the Caribbean cruise photos covering the refrigerator. "I deserved something after taking care of her for 2 years," my mother wailed pathetically. "She left you the house and the car and $40,000 in savings," Grandfather roared. "That ring was sacred because it represented 5 generations of women, and she specifically wanted these kids to have it because they actually loved her." My mother tried to speak, but Grandfather wasn't finished. "You watched them work themselves into the ground and eat garbage while you spent her ring money on vacations and designer bags and cosmetic procedures." My wife pulled out her phone and showed him a photo from 3 days before Grandma died, where they were curled up in the hospice bed together. "She told me the ring would be perfect because her grandmother in Prague also married a poor man who worked hard and loved harder." I thought about all the Sundays my wife had spent with Grandma while my mother was too busy to visit. My mother gathered her things while Grandfather called his lawyer. "She said she could die peacefully knowing her ring would be on the finger of the woman who brought sunshine to her for the last 5 years," he said sternly. My mother reached for the door with shaking hands. The door slammed and Grandfather pulled my wife into his arms. "I'll get it back," he promised. "If I have to buy that pawn shop myself, I'll get her ring back where it belongs."